Hi, and welcome to another edition of Mini Adventure. Today we're going to be looking at the throttle body on this 2007 Mini Cooper. Many of you guys have been following me on this adventure. We've worked on the timing chain, worked on actually having to replace the head and all that stuff, and so far it's been running really good, but here lately a couple of times I've had this weird fault for a problem with the throttle body, and it'll be a throttle body circuit low issue. Well, today when I was driving home with my wife, it actually went into a limp home mode, and I pulled the codes on it, and it was saying that the throttle body was stuck open permanently. There was another code that said it was stuck open temporarily, and then also through the throttle body control circuit low code. So once I cleared all of those codes with my code reader, then it started and ran just fine, but it was still throwing the engine symbol that's yellow and it's half shaded. And so I wanted to come in here and pull the throttle body off and take a look at it and see why it would be reading that it was stuck. It could be the sensor inside the throttle body is not responding correctly. It could be a problem with the motor inside the throttle body. Seeing as this vehicle is what they call drive-by-wire, there is no direct connection between your accelerator pedal and your throttle body. What happens is there is a variable resistor in the throttle body, and there's one also in the accelerator pedal. When you push on the accelerator pedal, the computer reads that variable resistance, and it tells the throttle body how far to open. And so what happens when you start this vehicle up, when you first put your key in, it does a test to test the how far the limits are for wide open to fully closed, and that's how it sets everything up. So if you have a problem with your variable resistor, or if there's a problem with the motor in the throttle body, or it could be something as simple as a piece of carbon or something built up around the throttle body blade that's keeping it from going fully closed to fully open, that'll throw that code. So we're going to take a look at that today and see if that's the issue. If not, there's really not anything you can do other than clean the throttle body. There's nothing that you can do. You can't take the motor apart or the electronics or anything. If it's not just dirty on the inside, you will end up having to replace it. I've looked on eBay. They run around $200 to $250 for a new, OEM throttle body, and I'm hoping to avoid that, but we'll just see once we get into it. We'll see what we're dealing with. So give me a second to set everything up and I'll be right back. Well, hi, and welcome to another edition of Mini Adventure. Today I'm going to be taking a look at an issue I just started having with my wife's car. We're driving back from town, and as we were coming into our neighborhood, it started running terribly. At idle, the RPM would surge between 1 and 2,000 RPM, and then when you were trying to drive it, it had no acceleration. You could push the pedal all the way to the floor, and it would not accelerate at all. And we had the yellow engine that's half shaded, which indicates it's basically a limp home mode. It's reduced power, and it really had no power. It was reduced power, getting it all the way back to the house. And so I decided to go ahead and pull up the codes on this thing, and let me turn this on. And I've got the Torque Pro app here. That's what I use, and I have a Bluetooth adapter that I keep attached to this car so that I can monitor everything on it. And I'm going to go ahead and check for scan for some fault codes. Okay, this is going to give me issues. Let me get this straightened out, and then I'll start this back up. Hi, and welcome back to Mini Adventure. I just thought I would get an opportunity to take this video and show you what my wife's 2007 R56 Mini Cooper is doing. As you can see, we got the yellow engine light. It's half covered, half shaded, and you can see the RPM gauge is going up and down and up and down. Very, very erratic. And it's also setting some codes too, and I need to get my phone. I've got the Torque Pro app on my phone, probably the best $5 app I've ever bought, and it allows me to look at the fault codes and look at other things in it also. And so I'm going to go ahead and let it scan. I don't know if you can see all this. Let me back it out a little bit so hopefully you can see it. It's kind of hard to see, but as you can see, it's a P2102 throttle actuator control motor circuit low. And these are all the codes that it's showing. That B2 alpha 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 body shows a lot. I'm not exactly sure what's causing that, but you can see the P1638 powertrain, and I'll tap that, and it gives you all the different codes. For BMW, you see throttle valve position control, throttle stuck temporarily, and the 1639 throttle valve position control, throttle stuck permanently. And we'll close that. And throttle actuator circuit motor circuit low. So those are the three codes that my vehicle set. I've got a throttle body on order for it. Tried cleaning it up. That didn't seem to do anything for it. So, but I wanted to show y'all what this thing is doing, so that if you see it happening to yours, you'll know what it's doing. And as you can see, that's what it's what your indication you'll have. And what's happening is it puts it in what is known as a limp home mode. You will not be able to drive the car very much at all. You try to give it full gas and it will not respond. And basically you can only go about 40-45 miles an hour in fifth gear or sixth gear. It doesn't go very fast at all. So you can still drive the car, but it puts it into what's known as limp home mode. Since this vehicle is throttle by wire, it's just a safety precaution they put in there to make sure that it doesn't run away, kind of like the issue that Toyota had a few years back with their cars just taking off. Well, this one won't do that. If you have a problem with the throttle body, it puts it into this limp home mode, as indicated by the engine symbol that's half shaded yellow. But you would be able to get it home and possibly without any issue. You could call a tow truck, of course, but I've got a throttle body on order for this thing. They're a little over $200 for a factory throttle body. And then once I get it in, we'll go through putting it in and clearing the codes, and we'll hopefully get this thing back on the road. Okay, welcome back. As you can see on my wife's car here, we've got a bracket or brace that goes across between the two shock towers. This was on the car when we bought it, so somebody obviously thought it was necessary to help stabilize the front of the car, so we're going to take that off first. It's a 13 millimeter. Normally you would not have to do this on your vehicles if you don't have it, obviously, but in order to get in here, it's a lot easier once you get this part off of here. But I made the mistake one time of actually lifting the front end of the car up, and the struts actually are bolted to this, so I had to get somebody to help me when I lowered it back down to guide the struts back in the holes properly. So when I get done, I'll spin these nuts back on here. I don't anticipate having to jack the car up, but you never know. It's always a good idea to do it just to be safe. So we got those 6 bolts off. We'll pull Pull this bar off. Alright, so now what we're going to do, I'll zoom in here to show you. We're going to go ahead and take off this air filter assembly because it's right over the intake manifold. I have to disconnect the wires that go to that. And then there's also this boost hose that goes in there also. So we're gonna work on taking that off. So we'll disconnect this adapter here, and there's two bolts, one here and one back here, that you can get to. So we'll pull the air filter itself off. And then there's these two bolts right here. Just seam it. Well, they're not quite 10s. Well, they're 11s. Now, on yours, you may or may not have, there's actually a big air cleaner box that comes stock on these. This one doesn't have that. But on this one I found the hard way. You have to hold the bolt from underneath. Run these back down real quick. Alright. Well, we got that out of the way. Alright, so we look down in here. Let me disconnect this real quick. As you can see, we have the boost hose that comes in here and it connects here. And then we also have the throttle body is up underneath this intake manifold. So we've got these hoses right here that attach to the intake manifold. And of course we got the 5 bolts that bolted to the head. So we'll have to disconnect these wiring harnesses, and this piece right here, it should stay out of the way for us to get in there. We don't necessarily need to unhook it, but we'll take a look at it as we go. So let me get set up for that and I'll be right back. Okay, so far as you can see, I've removed the air filter intake hose, and now I'm looking down at the intake manifold, and we're going to have to remove this sensor here, and I'm going to disconnect this clamp here and unscrew this, and we're going to pull this noise resonator out, which is kind of funny because they actually have on your boost hose, on this boost hose right here, they actually have a noise suppressor in there that's supposed to keep it from making a lot of noise. But then over here, when you go back and you look at that, they actually have this hose right here. All this does is it goes up in here, up into the firewall, and provides you with some engine sound. It's really kind of stupid, but I do plan on taking that part out and getting rid of that and just replacing that with a one-piece hose, because it actually has a Y in the hose in this boost hose right here. So we're going to get rid of that. We have to unplug this hose right here, and all you do is just squeeze it. Let's see if you can see it in the frame. Okay. We have this hose right here. We just have to squeeze it and it comes right off. And then we'll disconnect this connector here, and then we'll disconnect this hose right here and attempt to pull that out. Grab my screwdriver here. And if you've done any work on this vehicle, you'll realize that there's nothing really easy about working on anything on this car at all. But we're gonna have to, let me go get some more tools, and then I'll be right back. I've got to get some more tools to take that pipe out. Okay, we're back now. Had to get a stubby Phillips to get in here and unbolt this from the intake. Set that up here, and then this hose just unhooks from here. Unhooks from this Y pipe. Pull that out, and that's all there is. It plugs in down here. And I don't know if you can see it. All that right there just goes into the firewall to provide you with like I guess a turbo sound or whatever. And there's the noise they actually call it a noise generator. And then this right here just plugs into the Y part of the boost pipe that goes into the intake manifold. So when we got that off, now we can actually see down here onto the intake manifold. And what I found when I was working on this before, it's easier to disconnect the intake manifold from the engine. It's held on by 5 nuts. There are studs that come out and hold the intake manifold on to the cylinder head, but all the wiring is underneath it, and you really can't reach it without taking the intake manifold out of place. And once you do that, you'll be able to get to the boost tube, disconnected from the throttle body and all that. But just as it sits right now, you can't reach any of that kind of stuff. So let me get everything together and I'll be right back. Okay, if you follow this boost pipe right here and you follow it all the way down, you'll see where it attaches down here to the throttle body. And on mine, it's got a band clamp on it. You can't see it from the top, but you can reach it from the top. You can feel it. It's a 7mm, so I'm out here working by myself, so I really can't hold the camera while I'm working. So I'm gonna disconnect this band clamp and pull the boost tube off of the throttle body, and I'll be right back. Okay, so far what I've gotten done is I've gotten these bolts off. There's 5 of them from the one right here, 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 and underneath this side right here, underneath this, there's one. and I've got the band loose at the bottom, but because of the frame it's really hard to push it out, so I'm going to take it all out together. So I've released it from the boost tube from up here and put the hose clamp over there. So just about ready to go ahead and take this whole assembly out. And once you lift it up, you can see all the wires and connectors and everything like that. You'll have to disconnect to actually free the entire intake manifold and throttle body, but you're going to have to take it all off as one assembly. So let me get that prepped and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so we've got the intake manifold loose in here. I'm going to try to hold this where you can see what I'm doing. But once you pick it up like this, as you can see, now you can get to the intake pipe. But on this right here, let me get this out of the way so you can see it. Hopefully, if I can get it to stand up out of the way. Of course, it's going to be difficult. Okay, there we go. Now, this wire right here, there's actually a little hole right here that it pushes down into. You'll have to pop that out, and then this clip right here actually clips right here on the intake. So when you're trying to get this thing out and you're meeting some resistance, you just got to take a screwdriver and pop that little clip off of here. Don't pry it, just get a screwdriver under it and push it off. If you pry it, you're going to break this clip. Then once you do that, you're able to get the intake manifold up to this part right here, and then if you look, it's kind of hard to see, but well, I'll have to undo some of these wires under here to get it off. As you can see, there's several wires in here for different control valves and things, and then once we unhook those, then we'll be ready to take this thing out. Now I'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna try to get this in there where you guys can see. This vacuum hose here, I had to disconnect. Kind of hard to see because I can't get my light down in here real good. But there's a valve right here, and I had to disconnect this from that valve, and then there was another valve that was attached here that I pulled off, and I let it sit down there. But now I've got everything disconnected and I'm ready to go ahead and pull it out.